If you've committed a crime and you don't want to do the time, you may be eligible for diversion. Please call the law offices of Jacob Kachotrian and you will be found ex-guilty.
Jacob Kachotrian is a criminal lawyer who will not promise you the world just to sell you up the river. With his experience and skills, you get a defense attorney that is truly by your side, defending you at every stage of the prosecution, including a jury trial where he's had over a 92% success rate for his clients. Whether it's a DUI, domestic violence, or even something as serious as murder, Jacob is the guy you need by your side. That's Jacob Kachotrian, attorney at law. Call 323-880-4000 for Jacob Kachotrian, criminal defense.
Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Chris Johnson, UCLA national champion. I need y'all to listen to the What's Bruin show. These dudes are off the hook.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Berryfield and Mike Regalado, and occasionally some friends, talking all things UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello, and welcome to What's Bruin. I am your host, Jake Merrifield. In a few minutes, we'll be joined by my good friend, Mike Regalado.
Big applause, Big Mike.
Mike Regalado.
From Bruin Report Online. Tonight, we'll be talking a little bit about the non-revenue sports, since there's been some nice victories for the Bruins.
Go Bruins!
On that in that regard in the last last week or so. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the dreaded CALimony.
Sounds rumpy-pumpy.
Yeah, sounds absolutely rompy-pompy. It just seems ridiculous on its face, but we'll see how that shakes up. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And we're also going to get a little tease on a great interview that Mike did today for Bruin Report Online. And maybe a couple other things, too. But before we get to that, this is the What's Bruin Show on the What's Bruin Show Network. We thank you for your support. Twitter, Instagram, Threads, it's at What's Bruin Show. What's Bruin Show at gmail.com is the email. Please send us an email if you have any questions or comments, including one of you subscribers.
Bro.
That wanted to drop for me. Just send me an email, and I will send it right back to you. It would be my pleasure, and thank you for your support over there. Also, you can support us with just a little bit each month. How much, Mike? He's not here.
$2.
Just a little bit. $2 or a little bit more than $2 at Substack, whatsbruin.substack.com, where I post some pictures that are relevant to the show now and again, or also just on the Patreon, patreon.com/whatsbruinshow, or just whatsbruinshow.com. We appreciate your support. If you subscribe, you get a link to our Slack feed, so you can talk to us about what's going on with UCLA or with the What's Bruin Show in our spare time. But you know, other than that, we'll do some extra podcasts now and again as well. But we thank you for your support on that. Finally, you have the What's Bruin hotline, 805-399-4WBS. Suck it, Reign of Troy. I'm actually supposed to be doing a movie night with those guys soon, because you wouldn't believe how many movies they have not seen. It's like absolutely shameful. I mean, they're like, mid-30s people, and some of their pop culture gaps are just astounding. But more on that when we get to it. That's okay. But Suck it, Reign of Troy, indeed. Call the hotline, 805-399-4WBS. Well, all right then. Enough of that. I do have one Mike Regalado on the line.
Mike Regalado.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
What's up?
How you doing, man?
What's up?
So
Good, thank you.
We're ready to do some BROfiliated Headlines, I think, with that guy.
Iron Mike.
What is going on, Mikey? You just I just kind of plugged it a minute ago, but you did a super cool, awesome interview that is now in the can, so I can actually say that you did it. So what's the deal, bro?
Yeah, I actually hooked this up last week. I was just trying to pin down a time to interview another fantastic UCLA athlete, and it came at such an interesting time, especially in the last 24 hours, but I got to chat finally with Gabriela Jauqez of the UCLA women's basketball team.
And the basketball team and the basketball team and huh?
I'm getting to that. Yes, she's part of the UCLA women's basketball team and the UCLA softball team.
That's pretty cool, right? Yeah. So yeah. What a trick. Did you talk to her about what that is all about in the interview?
I did. I got into it. I kind of teased it at the beginning, but ended up with some softball talk. And basically just to do a little overview of the whole thing, we got into talking about NIL. I usually ask the players, especially since Men of Westwood, they helped me put these interviews together.
Nice.
So, big shout out to them. And then I talk about literally what is it like for a student athlete, especially one who, NIL wasn't a thing when she was getting recruited, and now it is. How are they handling it? How are they learning from it? What are they doing with the coaches? What are they learning how to do with agents and stuff like that? So really interesting chat with her about that. Then talked about the season that was with the UCLA women's basketball team, and then the season that will be. Then talked a little bit about how this interview came at such an interesting time, because last night on Monday night, someone sent me a message on the Twitters, as well as I saw while I was scrolling that it was the Daily Bruin, and someone else, I'm blanking on who the other, it was like a national softball writer, talked about how Gabriela Jauqez is now on the roster for the UCLA softball team.
Go Bruins!
Which first off, cheers to the UCLA softball team on winning another Pac-12 tournament championship.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And congratulations
I got
to
one
them
for that.
on.
I'm happy that UCLA won.
Us too.
Yep.
Yeah.
As well as earning the number 6 seed in the upcoming Women's College World Series.
I got one for that too. Hold on.
UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight.
That's right. Thanks, Parrish. Go for it.
And she basically said, this is something like they communicated with each other. She's eligible immediately.
Oh, nice.
So this is the first. This is interesting because it's like I've never. I cannot remember anything like this happening, like a player being added, not just midseason but postseason.
Yeah, it's
so
a crazy
still,
story. And
but still, I mean,
and Mike, like obviously we want people to. I'll link the interview in the show. It's going to be on on Bruin Report Online, or it already is, right? Or it's on YouTube.
It will be on Wednesday.
Oh, okay,
Bro.
Okay, well, hey, if you listen to this late Tuesday night when it gets posted, then it's on whose YouTube is on? It's on your YouTube?
That's mine, yes.
Okay, it's on Mike Regalato's
Iron Mike
YouTube account, and then the story will be on Bro tomorrow, right?
Hi, bro.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and I'll link the video in the show notes if you want to get on that quickly. Very good. Great job, Mike.
Yeah. But yeah, she basically said that, she talked about how she played softball in high school. So it's definitely nothing new to her, but basically she'll be like a pinch runner for now. Something that'll just quickly insert her into the Bruins roster, which
did she talk about like
needs
why?
a little bit of depth.
Yeah, well, okay, is that what it was? It's basically a depth move? Because you think about like adding someone to one of the best softball teams in the country. I mean, there's really no other way to describe them other than that, right? And then you're like, well, generally you're not going to be like hurting for players, but if you tell me that we need somebody to do a particular thing in a particular game, softball, baseball, it's they have these strategic subs like that, and you're like, hell, let's get a great athlete like Gabriela Jauqez and let her do her thing in a very specific situation. That makes all the sense in the world, right?
Yeah, exactly. And her role is utility player, so she doesn't have a specific defined role. So then that
I
makes
don't
a lot
think we're going to
of
be
sense.
seeing her at center field anytime soon, right? Unless they, but like I said, like it'll
exactly.
be a very specific situation, and I'm sure that if it happens while it's on ESPN, they'll make an appropriate big deal out of it, and it'll be fun. It'll be very cool to see. So hopefully she does get that.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. So that was
check
the
the
big
show
thing
notes for that. Sorry to speak over you, Mike. Check the show notes for that, and then also get it on Bro tomorrow.
Bro.
What else, Mikey?
Okay, Jake. I guess it's going to be a show just at like
hold on,
because they're just like
after you're done talking to Gabriela Jauqez, you got Jaime's number, right? You got us like an invitation to South Beach. We're going to be like partying like rock stars in August, right? You hooked that up, right?
I was trying to see.
This is what I want our audience to be, Mike, right here. Jaime, hey Jaime, let's go.
Dolly, yo.
What? You didn't?
No,
bummer.
No, I did say so. You have like a famous brother, right? What's that about?
That's awesome.
She did say that like it's nothing. It's not so different because it's still her brother. They still, chat all the time. But she says that sometimes, like when she walks into a restaurant or something and there's a TV there and he's on the commercial, she'll be like, oh wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Which I could imagine that. Like, yeah. So so check that out.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I mean, obviously we want to save some for the interview, but thanks for giving us the highlights of that, Mikey. So with that being said, that was awesome. What else is going on that you want to talk about? I guess this show's probably just going to be one big headline show, I think, with and then we're going to have our friend Leo join us soon. But what else is on your mind, buddy?
Well, okay. I think we should maybe leave CALimony for the last. But that decision did come down today, so we'll get into that. But
sounds rumpy-pumpy.
And it is now the off season. It's been the off season for a while for both sports, all three sports. But it's never too early to look ahead to college football, especially with Bill Connolly, who does his S&P Plus rankings, his breakdowns. He basically does it all through summer. And he's going to have his full SP Plus, from what I can tell, next week. But yesterday,
the B team used to get Bill Connolly to come on their show. Like, this is before he was on ESPN. But I mean, we should reach out and see if we get Bill Connolly.
That's right, huh?
Because, we always like his numbers and whatnot. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he doesn't big time us. Oh, you're popular now.
Well, you have every right to big time us. But I mean, that's one where it's like,
oh, totally.
Might as well. Anyways, that's an off-air conversation.
But basically, he released his returning production rankings, which is it's interesting. And I have an article coming out on Bruin Report Online about this. In February, when he released his rankings, UCLA was, what was it, like in the 90s? They were ranked 90th, returning 51% of their production from last season. After spring practice and the transfer portal closed, UCLA has shot up to 21st with 70% of their returning production. That basically means how much of the stats from last year is UCLA recouping. Obviously, after the season, there were 20 players that put their name in the transfer portal, but 3 came back. So it's only a total of 17. UCLA has now brought in 19 players from the transfer portal.
Bruins.
So they're up 2. They have a plus minus of 2. And that has seriously helped out UCLA's returning production.
When they do the returning production, Mikey, when they do the returning production on the transfers, do they just plug in the transfer stats from wherever they played before? How does that work? Do you know? Do you have any idea?
I believe so. Yeah, I scour his articles thoroughly, but he kind of just does a brief overview. But it's basically, it's just adding what the incoming transfers did last year to UCLA's total production, kind of comparing those numbers.
I mean, because that's the only way. That's the only way you could get it to a number that looks like it's a good number, basically, right? Because they did lose some guys. I mean, they lost. They lost production.
Yeah, exactly. So,
so what's your conclusion from all that then? I mean, it's good, but it's still like a complete unknown because they're running a wholly new offense. They're running a defense that has a new defensive coordinator and lost a bunch of their defensive production. And, a ton of their defensive production, so it's still a giant unknown, but it's better than being, 85th in the country. We got that going for us, I guess, right?
Exactly. And only returning half of your squad.
Yeah.
Which, unlike, let's see, who was it? He also put the top 25 teams from the end of the season in bold. So you can see how, like for example, you constantly remind us that Washington loses pretty much their entire roster.
Yeah.
Not exactly their entire roster, but they are only returning 40. Even after the transfer portal, they're only returning 40% of their roster. Their returning production from last season. Michigan, the national champions, they're only returning 36%. So obviously, that is a huge effect on consistency and chemistry going forward. So obviously it's not going to rank them because they're not going to be 126th and 130th overall, which they are in these returning production rankings. But it's going to help them take a hit. So that's going to factor into his SP Plus rankings, which will come out next week.
Yeah, well, I will say this: like when this kind of popped up, our Slack channel kind of popped up on this thing a little bit as well, and like listeners like old Dez it has him like farting Bruin rainbows out of his ass right now, and we love Dez to death. It doesn't give me that much optimism, but like I said, it is definitely something it's better than having it go the other way. Right, so it's all good.
Yeah,
but still a lot of unknowns out there as far as the way this particular Bruin football team is gonna roll out. But you also had some good recruiting news, didn't you, Mikey?
Go Bruins!
UCLA a few days ago got a commitment from a cornerback transfer from Cal. So that CALimony
man.
Kalen Moore has committed to UCLA. And this will be his third stop. He started at Colorado, went to Cal, and now is going to have spend his final year of eligibility in Westwood.
Nice.
And this is a guy that has a lot of experience. He's not ranked in the 24/7 transfer portal rankings, but he's a guy that has a lot of experience. He's very smart, and he definitely helps out with depth, which UCLA really needs. This morning, actually on Tuesday morning, UCLA got a commitment from 4-star running back per 24/7 Sports, not the composite, a commitment from Carson Cox, who basically said that one of the key factors in committing to UCLA was the fact that he's going to be working underneath coaches who know how to develop running backs and who were running backs themselves and who have had success with that. So that is a huge pickup. He's one of the best running backs out west, according to Greg Biggins of 24/7 Sports. And it just shows that, we were talking about it last week, how you don't have to do much work at a place like UCLA to recruit. And once again, it's showing that that is evident with what the coaching staff is doing. So these are two commitments in the last week for the football team. It just shows how, I'm just going to keep harping on this. You don't have to do that much work. And it sucks that I am harping on it, because it just shows how much of a contrast it is to what Chip Kelly did, or didn't actually. So just putting yourself out there, and the coaches have been on the road for the last 2 weeks, and just doing the work that they need to build something. What that something is, we will find out. But it doesn't take much to not only get the attention of kids, but to show them like, hey, this is UCLA. This is what you can do at UCLA. What do you think? Did not see any of this under Chip Kelly. But he was part of this big recruiting weekend with the Bruins, and hopefully there's more to come. Actually, literally a few minutes ago, I saw that Deshaun Foster. It's like 7 p.m. West Pacific time. Deshaun Foster. Well, the whole coaching staff is putting out these in-sync tweets, which it's very produced, very good video production, where it starts with the hills of Westwood, and it says Westwood on it, just flashes of the Rose Bowl, stuff like that. It's basically the new boom whenever someone commits.
Very cool.
Deshaun Foster just tweeted out a GIF of Wesley Snipes' Blade, giving a smile, then looking away. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like an ultra commitment or whatnot, but I do like the activity that the coaching staff has. Completely night and day. Just they are literally putting themselves out there.
And it remains to be seen.
Crap, none of that.
Yeah, no, and it remains to be seen, like, how it will pay off, like, on the field. Will they be able to coach these guys, to play well on the field? But as far as, like I said, we've said this over and over again. We're going to say this 100 more times before the start of the season. Deshaun Foster came in under very unideal circumstances, and he is absolutely making the most out of what was a bad situation. And now I think, just Bruin fans at large, anybody that's a fan of the football team, has to have, relatively positive feelings about the program, even though it's still a big unknown. Positive feelings about where the program is right now compared to certainly a couple months ago, absolutely a few months ago, like right after the SC win, everything kind of fell apart and the bottom fell out. So, and who knows? We could be cautiously optimistic right now, at least until September, and and just kind of live on that. I do have a couple follow-up questions on some of these transfers, Mike. The kid that came from Cal, his name was what?
Caleb Moore.
And we did get exclusive What's Bruin, an interview with him, or, his comments once he left Berkeley. Number one, when he first got there, he was like,
Yeah, Berkeley is actually really great.
And then all of a sudden, they decided to close the Top Dog, and then he decided
maybe Berkeley is not the best place in the Pac-10.
And the last quote he had was,
"Suck it, Cal."
And now he's Go Bruins, right? Those are all like what he had to say, right? I'm pretty sure. Direct quotes.
Pretty accurate breakdown.
Yeah. So we are very happy that the Cal pipeline is still open, despite of or because of CALimony. I wonder, if when they're sending when they write the first couple of checks over there for the CALimony, will they like put in the memo, this one is for Oladejo and this one, like they probably could, just as a middle finger to the old Berkeley Bears.
Suck it, Cal.
Because it's not an ideal situation. Why don't we talk about CALimony now, Mikey? Just because it's annoying, it's stupid, but it apparently is here. Like a decision just came down, final today. It's a final tentative decision, right? That's the way to term it.
Yeah, these two really quick paragraphs, which I'll go through really quickly, that John Wilner put out in
Let's
a statement from the Regents.
Breaking news, Mike.
Let's do it.
What's brewing? News. Breaking news on a weekly basis.
News just in.
So, in regards to CALimony, Mike, what did Wilner break?
Again, this is a statement from the Regents. The University of California Board of Regents Special Committee on Athletics met Tuesday, May 14th, and voted to approve a recommendation by UC President Michael V. Drake, MD, authorizing UCLA to transfer funds to UC Berkeley athletics. Beginning this year and through 2027, the board authorized UCLA to transfer $10 million a year to UC Berkeley. During the discussion, the Regents amended the recommendation to review the decision after 3 years. In December 2022, the Board of Regents endorsed UCLA's move to the Big Ten. The board's approval was contingent on UCLA agreeing to a set of migration measures designed to support UC student athletes at both UCLA and UC Berkeley. The implementation of one of these conditions is to help UC Berkeley enhance student athlete support at the campus. The condition also guarantees that some of the additional revenue received by UCLA from the Big Ten media rights contract are applied towards UCLA student athlete mental health, nutritional, and academic support.
Okay, Mike, so what does that all mean to you, and how do you feel about it?
It means that the UC Regents are doing something that they've never done before, and it kind of seems like, hey, hey, guys, UC Berkeley isn't doing so well, and since you're going to the Big Ten, give them some money, which, I don't know if UCLA will fight this. I hope so, because the Regents approved UCLA leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten, and now all of a sudden they have to pay $10 million a year. I guess the upside of this is that it was recommended that UCLA would pay $10 million for 6 years. That has been reduced to 3, but it will revisit that situation in 2027. It's just bizarre how the Regents think that UCLA owes UC Berkeley, anything. All jokes aside, even fanatical talk. If UC Berkeley, and forgive me, Jamaal, I'm not mocking it, but at the same time, he's also mocked Berkeley athletics as well. They put themselves in a hole. What's one way that Cal could have avoided this? You win. If you had better money management, if you didn't have that insane bill for Symposium, and had to skimp on paying certain coaches or whatnot, they wouldn't be in this situation. This seems to me, and not that it should be anything that UCLA should worry about, but now it seems like because Cal Athletics has put themselves in a hole, they need help getting out. And then they use UCLA as like, oh, well, it kind of seems like one family member like strikes it rich with the lottery, and all of a sudden other family members who all of a sudden wanted nothing to do with them before are now like, oh, hey, can I get some of that? We're family, right? You got to help us out. I mean, I'm being very being a little dramatic about this, but that's honestly what it seems. It doesn't. I don't know what Berkeley was talking to the regents about, but it just seems like just a lot of like, oh, well, we need help since you have the money. Hey, give us that money, UCLA. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
First of all,
suck it, Cal.
First and second of all, and third of all, and by the way, I apologize profusely to our pod partner Jamaal, and also to my daughter Megan. This is coming from someone who is currently paying tuition to Cal, to University of California. But I was immediately struck by a few thoughts when I first heard the story kind of bubbling up earlier in the week. The number one thing is that this is coming off of reportedly a recommendation from Michael V. Drake, who you quoted in the article. Mike. Yeah. Everybody keeps talking about how that's like the part of the UC Regents, but last time I checked, he's just the chancellor or the president of the University of California, the actual institution, University of California, right? And he's not the UC Regents. Those are two separate things, right? The Regents are above the University of California, UCLA, et cetera, et cetera. But Drake is the president of Berkeley. Is that how you understand it too? Correct me if I'm wrong, but if that's the case, how I understand it, it's like, great, we're going off of this guy's recommendation. What the hell does Gene Block recommend? Like, can we get involved? He's too busy cleaning up graffiti or something? Like, why don't we have two different perspectives on this situation right off the bat, right? Number two, this is... you brought up the example of, someone wins a lottery and then the relatives come out of the woodwork to ask for loose change. I definitely think that is that could apply here. To me, the first thing I thought of was this is just typical freaking California governing, right? This is the same playbook that we've been seeing for years in this dang horribly managed state. And I just got to play the government totally sucks, you mother effer.
The government totally sucks, you motherfucker. The government totally sucks.
The model I would point to in this situation.
Jake, this is California. Love it or leave it, bro. Love it or leave it.
A lot of people are taking up that leave it offer, but not me yet. But this reminded me directly of, as someone who, I have now 2 kids in college, one that's going into high school, and I've spent in all 3 of them, by the way, public institution products, right? Public schools the whole way. Suck it, Bill and Suzanne. And I've been heavily involved in PTA and school governments for almost 20 years, or probably more like 15 years now. And this just smacks to me of the typical situation where they take from schools that are running well. And by the way, you can make all the arguments you want about UCLA having its own problems in the athletic department, all that stuff. And I would say that goes directly towards a temporary problem with those carpetbaggers from Under Armour, which, by the way, Cal was affected by that too. I want to be fair to them. Regardless of how well or not well the University of California or UCLA has been managed or Berkeley has been managed, bottom line is UCLA had a big windfall and were put into a better situation based on what their particular university has to offer, right? They took UCLA and USC for a reason. Like, we're just talking about bringing down the overall, kind of holding back another school from achieving at a higher level kind of thing. And I understand there's arguments for and against that, but that's the kind of the situation we have here, right? UCLA it got put into a good situation and is kind of having its wings clipped to a little bit of a degree in order to kind of keep Cal afloat. Even though, as Mike, you pointed out, Berkeley put itself in that situation, UCLA put itself in that situation, and by the way, and I understand it, and I am actually much less frustrated by the Regents or the University of California decision to cut it in half, and they're paying a big chunk for a few years. I understand that a little bit, right? I'd be a lot more upset about this if it ended up being $10 million a year for the entire length of the Big Ten contract and then revisited then. Yeah. Like that, to me, that was so unfair. I actually, we're making fun of it, and I'm like, the government totally sucks, and we're saying suck at Cal and all that stuff. This doesn't seem as unfair as that first headline that broke. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah. And we could actually do an entirely different podcast on the politics of the Los Angeles Unified School District.
Don't get me started, bro.
But that's how they operate. I understand that. But the UC schools have operated independently forever. I don't see Santa Barbara or Irvine or Santa Cruz going, "Hey, UCLA, can you help us out? You have all this money." Yeah, I thought of Santa Cruz and automatically went to Stoner Surfer.
That's all right. Go Slugs.
It seems, go Slugs. Yeah, why all of a sudden? Because Berkeley's just not in a place, is not in a good place as they were like 5 years ago. And again, I'm sorry, Jamaal, but you want change? Start winning. Show that Cal. You want to have that you have serious basketball programs. Especially now with NIL, get your donors. And I understand that it is there are certain. It seems like with UCLA, it is even the academics accept the athletic side of it. It seems like the academics at Berkeley, and I get it too, because it is a prestigious public university, don't really care about it. So they might not have as big of a fan base, might not have as big as NIL, but you have to do something.
They potentially could have. They potentially could have, if not the same, very close to the same sorts of support and funds as UCLA does, because it's just a ginormous public institution. It's an institution in its area, right? I mean, it's Cal and Stanford, it's UCLA, USC. Those are the big major brands in their areas. And I'm sorry, the Bay Area, they love their sports too. And if Cal's excelling, they are, they're getting people at Memorial Stadium. There are people that follow that program because there's been so many people that have gone through there, right? And by the way, it's much more tied into the Bay Area as a whole than Stanford is. Stanford is very, very insulated and very, very, highbrow, whatever. And Cal, it's a world-class organization, just like University of California, just like UCLA is. But it is the school of the people of the Bay Area, right? It's right there, just north of Oakland. All that stuff, and so there's a ton of potential for Cal to blow up as a sports program. This also just leads to the discussion of how frustrating it is how the University of California as a whole, the whole system, kind of treats its sports. It should be treated as a publicity vehicle, a marketing tool for the university at large. And if they treated it as such and didn't get so bogged down into, and by the way, we're talking about universities that have a ton of money in their system. And I don't mind if you're taking the money and distributing it throughout your system to where everybody has a chance to do well and it's well managed. But when you're saying that, you're putting all these kind of artificial limits and constraints on your ability to operate your athletic program, and I think that's something that Cal and UCLA are under the burden of, right? They have to follow all of these stupid arbitrary rules when if the universities would treat them like some of these other universities across the country treat them, you wouldn't need any damn rules because they bring in more money than you know what to do with, right? That's a whole nother argument. You're right. We could have a whole nother podcast on it, Mikey. But the bottom line, one last point I want to make is, and the most glaring point, and it may or may not be the title of this episode, but when we're talking about CALimony, what the hell is UCLA paying CALimony to Berkeley for anyway? They got remarried, right? They're in the ACC. They signed a contract. F them. The last thing I heard, you had alimony, your girl gets married, or your girl or your man gets remarried. You're off the hook, dude. You're off the hook. And then beyond that, Mike, why the heck are we on the hook for the whole $10 million or whatever? Why don't you send a bill collector over to SC? Because they're 50% part of this problem too. UCLA and SC hung them out to dry, right? Go over to the snooty private school too and ask them for a check.
And additionally, if Cal's worried about UCLA destroyed the Pac-12 and they're looking for money from UCLA, why the hell are they not? Why aren't they suing USC? I know that's a stretch. They're not in the same system, but UCLA and,
that wouldn't work.
USC, quote unquote, destroyed the Pac-12.
Yeah.
But even more specific, why isn't Cal suing the Pac-12, which is still an entity with Oregon State and Washington State? Why aren't they suing them for not having this revenue or not putting out a product to keep this group of Western schools together? It just feels like, oh, hey, we need a handout because we're your big brother. Hey, what's up, yo?
Yeah. The bottom line is, number one, I am actually not super unhappy with what if you told me that there was going to be some sort of quote unquote CALimony, right? I think this is a decent situation for the Bruins. They got to pay the $10 million for a few years, but it's not for the whole life of the thing. And it ends up being for the contract they signed with the Big Ten, half that, right? $5 million a year for the life of the contract, but it's all front loaded. Then they're going to revisit it. Hopefully, Berkeley and UCLA can both manage their money well as they go into this new environment. We don't even know. The big warning sign out there is like, if the ACC falls apart, like it very well might, and now all of a sudden Berkeley's in a worse situation, or God help them, they don't make it to one of the major conferences. They end up somewhere like some weird hybrid of the Mountain West. Then this could get more ugly, but hopefully, the giant money pot that is college athletic, college football basically, succeeds, and and we're able to this is what the deal is, and it stays. And if this is where it stays, I'm not super upset, especially if you're telling me that Berkeley's going to send us 2 or 3 really good transfer students a year. I mean, fine. Let's just put that in the contract too. Send us a Sturdy event, send us an Oladejo, and we'll chip you off a little bit off the billfold. Sound good to you, Mike?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think we drink too much?
No, we don't drink too much. Men face reality, women don't. That's why men need to drink.
I hate it when podcasters talk about what they're drinking.
That little weirdo makes the best Manhattan I've ever had.
What else am I gonna drink, Bob? A fucking Fresca?
No Frescas on tonight's What's Bruin show. Mikey is off air right now. I think he's getting himself a beer. But this is Jake on the What's Bruin Symposium, because a symposium is a conversation over drinks. And tonight I'm having a little bit of Bullet Bourbon, Bottle and Bond. I think it's a 100 proof bottle. Really good. I think it's like $40, $45. But well worth it. I like it quite a bit. But on the symposium here, this is where we remind you that we want to thank you for your support for the What's Bruin show and the What's Bruin show network for just a little bit more than $2 a month.
$2.
Give or take. You could support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/whatsbruinshow, or just whatsbruinshow.com, or also on the Substack. That would be Substack, whatsbruin.substack.com. And hey, we've been doing this for a while. We do this because you guys listen to us, because you guys support us, and we'll keep doing it if you guys keep supporting us. So thank you so much for that. You'll get access to the Slack channel if you subscribe to the show, and for very little.
$2.
And other than that, we'll give you a bonus pod now and again, but really it's just showing us that you want our little ship to keep sailing through the waters of UCLA Sports Talk. But thank you once again. Now, before I go, also in the show notes, I want to give a shout out to my good friend Jody Lynn. She is the proprietor of Dumplings, which are the best dumplings you will ever have in Los Angeles County, or really California, or really the United States, or really the world. jodysdumplins.com, JODISDUMPLINS.com. It's in the show notes. But seriously, it's the best things you're ever going to eat. Friday, May 17th, she's going to be at Creature Comforts Tap Room and Brewery. And on the 18th, she's going to be at the Nighttime Wine Bar. Check those out if you like dumplings, and you will not be disappointed. But really, once again, thanks for supporting the show. And cheers to you. And enjoy the rest of the show. Okay, Mikey. Well, you want to also talk a little bit about some basketball stuff, so I guess let's get to it despite my objections.
I would like to avoid the basketball stuff for as long as possible.
Well, this I think you'll like, but really quickly, it was funny because the day after we talked about UCLA scholarship distribution and how Mick Cronin was killing it on the recruiting trail
Mick
for
Cronin's done a hell of a
the
job
transfer
this year.
portal. The day after we posted our last podcast, UCLA got a commitment from 4-star point guard Trent Perry, who was formerly committed to USC.
He's just a baller, man.
Yes, switched things up and decided to come to UCLA. And that is now 8 players that UCLA is bringing in. What did they have? I can't remember. 7 or 8 players last year come in, but most of them were young freshman type people from Europe places. Yeah. Most of these guys have experience and should be able to help out with UCLA in some manner or whatnot. But the big thing is that with Perry committing, UCLA now has 14 players on available for scholarship, but only 13 scholarship spots. So how is that going to work? Well, as Bro has been talking about, someone is not going to have a scholarship basically, and they're gonna use NIL money to basically recoup for that.
Oh.
So UCLA,
but they're still going to be admitted as a student. Yada yada yada. That's crazy.
Yes, I guess technically a walk-on, but you're covered for NIL. You're covered because of NIL. So that's cool. That's a baller move right there by UCLA. Go Men of Westwood. And then finally, Jake, with UCLA going to the Big Ten, now they have options at non-conference.
Yeah.
I believe it is set in stone that UCLA and Gonzaga are going to do a home-and-home series, which, woof. But also, it does seem like UCLA and Arizona are in talks for a home-and-home game for the non-conference. What do you think of both of those?
That's just for next year, right? Or is it a series planned? All right, home and home. So I mean, 2 years or no?
Right now, at least the next 2 years.
Okay,
we'll see what happens with continuing it going forward.
Yeah,
but at least the next 2 years, UCLA and Arizona, as well as UCLA and Gonzaga.
I kind of like the Gonzaga thing. I totally kind of get because, you know, even though they're kind of like they've been a little bit of a nemesis over the years, certainly, you know, you talk about non-conference teams traditionally for UCLA in the last, you know, couple decades, Gonzaga's right at the top of the list with some of the epic matchups that they've had, right? UCLA got over big with the Morrison game, and then Gonzaga has just crushed our souls a couple times in the last number of years. But still, it's a big, like, attractive matchup that always leads to great games, right? So I am 100% in favor of the matchup with the Zags, the Zogs, the Gonzaga. Love you, Godfather. As far as Arizona goes, let me just put it this way. This year, the Grizzlies played their first game against the San Bernardino Spartans, and like it has many games, recent games, it just turns into a shit show as soon as it starts. And there's lots of fouls, and there's just lots of penalties, and there's like pushing, shoving, and all these people who are supposed to be dignified people act in undignified ways, and it just turns into the lowest common denominator sort of event possible, right? That's how I feel about the Arizona game at this point. And one of the silver linings for me of us going to a separate conference, going to the Big Ten while they go to the Big 12 was I don't have to deal with the freaking Cats for a while, right? And I would really love a pause on the series with the Wildcats. Screw them. We don't need them. They don't need us. I really don't want to play them anymore. I really don't want to deal with Arizona Wildcat basketball fans anymore. I really don't want to deal with, you know, scandals and pushing and shoving, and we're all pissed about the refs, and they're all pissed about the refs, and it just gets super duper petty. Mikey, one of your favorite things to do is to troll people from Arizona, and one of the Arizona people's, you know, one of the, you know, the people that know about you from Arizona, one of their favorite things to do is fight with you on Twitter. I don't need any of that. So to answer your question, Mike,
Jake,
I'm all about Gonzaga. I'm not all about the freaking Wildcats. They can suck it. They can go get their barf bags and bear down.
You're honest about that. That's what I want to hear. But Jake, I do not troll Arizona fans. I give them truth.
Mike, you absolutely troll the shit out of Arizona fans.
I give them truth, and they can't deal with it.
Yeah.
That is what happens. Step 1, step 2. Mike, step 1. Mike gives truth. 2. Arizona fans go, yeah.
Mikey, I think you should take the high road on this one and agree with me that we should no longer fraternize with the Wildcats. They can just enjoy the Big 12. But that's did you say that it's done, or you said it's in talks of?
The Arizona is from what I've heard, it's nothing isn't set in stone with that.
Okay.
But a lot of fans on both sides have, despite the rivalry and all the trolling and the hate that you alluded to right now, I think this still would be good, especially when it's non-conference and it's only one game and there's none of this. I think the rivalry will be, the gas will be turned down on the rivalry quite a bit because they're not playing each other twice a year. And because that's the thing, UCLA and Arizona fans are invested in the other program to see if they lose on their way to the top of the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah.
Since you don't have that anymore, it's going to be less.
Mikey.
It's still going to be pretty fire, but it's going to be a lot less.
Mikey, you can take the Cats out of the Pac-12, but you can't take the skanky, low-class spirit out of the Wildcat fans. It just doesn't happen that way. They're going to be classless and continue to be classless, and they can suck at Wildcats. Bear down. Bear down on these.
Okay, well, maybe the fire isn't going to be turned down that much. So.
I know how I feel. You think I want to go to Tucson for any goddamn reason, Mike? What happened to us the last time we went to Tucson? A few months ago,
football.
The goddamn football team had their way with us. It was a terrible disaster. It was a great trip, but it was a terrible disaster, Mike. I don't want anything to do other than Jamaal Artis. I want nothing to do. Oh, and the Missile Silo Museum. I want nothing to do with the greater Tucson area. Okay? I don't want any sporting event. I don't want to go to any sporting event anywhere within 100 miles of there. Okay? Nothing. Yeah. Never. Never again. And now you're telling me it's going to happen. I'm not happy about this.
That breakfast place was really good that Jamaal took us to.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll go visit Jamaal, and we'll have a lovely time. But I don't want to go to a sporting event. Nowhere near that place. Okay. All right, Mikey, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think we're done. This was a good headline episode.
It really was, and now we'll get to Leo's recap of the non-revenue sports. He did a great job calling in and giving us the lowdown on the national championship team from the water polo, which was super cool. Mike, what do you think about the water polo championship, real quick? By the way.
Fight!
Pretty impressive showing by the UCLA women's water polo team, who went 26-0. That's freaking fantastic. And then
epic.
And then to finish off Cal in the way they did, we're taking your linebackers, we're taking your defensive backs. We at once took your defensive lineman, but then defensive line coach, but then we fired him because he wasn't doing well. And now we took your championship. CALimony, whatever.
Yeah, right. Funny. You know what is cool about that particular game is my own daughter, Megan Merrifield.
Go Bears!
Of the bare minimum, my little Berkeley bear that I have.
The bare minimum.
She was actually there at her first event as a member of the Straw Hat Band for Berkeley for Cal Athletics for the band. She was part of the band. So she texted me. She's like, "I'm at this water polo match. This is awesome. You should turn it on." And that's when I turned it on. As listener Jack Rosenfeld of the Slack channel was alerting us to what's going on. So I listened. So I watched,
props to Jack.
Jack's big.
He was keeping us updated.
Yeah, but I watched the last 15 minutes of the game, and it was a lot of fun. But it was even more fun knowing that Megan was there in the band. And I'll put a picture up on the Substack of her first appearance on the Straw Hat Band. So that was super awesome. But with that being said, cool. I don't want to take too much of Leo the library guy's thunder. So Mike, let's get to his report, and then we'll come back after that with the What's Bruin, and then we'll be out of here.
Didn't you say in your resume that you did 4 years at UCLA?
Yes. Technically, if you consider Bel Air an extension of the campus, which everybody does.
Go Bruins.
Go Bruins! Go Bruins.
Go Bruins! I'm happy that UCLA won.
I'm happy that UCLA won.
Go Bruins!
Hey, What's Bruin Show? It's Leo from the library. You may have heard the good news by now, but I'll just reiterate it here. Everyone in the pool, because UCLA women's water polo just won their 8th championship in the program's history. The first championship since 2009. That's a 15-year drought. Up until then, we had won 7 of the first 9 championships and had won 5 in a row. and then just went on this long drought that was dominated by both Stanford and USC. So it was nice to finally break through and win it. And then also we went undefeated, 26-0, which is also amazing. So the match was it was a good match. It was very defensive minded. Each team only got a goal in each of the first 2 quarters. Cal started out the scoring when they scored the first goal, but we tied it up at 1 after 1 quarter. And then we took the lead in the second quarter, and then Cal tied it up. And, it was just 2-2 at halftime. And there was a lot of both teams were the goalies were making a lot of saves, but also the ball was hitting the cage, the edge of the goal frame a lot. So, everyone was just a little bit off. And then in the third quarter, we took the lead 3-2. Cal tied it up at 3. And then we took the lead again and then went in and ended the fourth quarter 4-3. And that's when we started to slowly break the game open and because Cal was really collapsing on our 2-meter players, like the players, like kind of like the centers in basketball, or the post players, they the ones who play closest to the goal. Cal was really collapsing on our players, so we're having to shoot from the outside a lot more. But we're starting to make those shots and also getting, a couple close-in goals every now and then. One was very lucky because we had like it was earlier in the match. One of our players was left unguarded in front of the goal because the ball bounced off a Cal defender, and we were able to score a goal off that. So that was very cool. And then, but eventually in the fourth, we got our 5th and 6th goals to make it a 3-goal lead. And with like 30 seconds left, Cal scored to make it 6-4, but they didn't have enough time. And then so they were pressuring us like in the pool, and one of our freshman attacker was in the middle, and then the goalie, Cal had to pull their goalie to try and get another attacker in, and so the goal was empty, and our attacker threw it from the middle of the pool. She threw it into an empty goal to finish the scoring 7-4. Yeah, it was very exciting, and I hadn't really seen much of the team all season. I've been meaning to get up to matches and just hadn't been able to. So it was nice to see that we were just so much better than everyone else this season, which is it was nice to see that we finished the job. There were 2 teams this season that were most likely to win a national championship, and there were men's volleyball and women's water polo. And like with the women's water polo, you didn't know it from the beginning, but then there's a point where like all of a sudden they just started winning every match, and then winning either dominantly or just winning and then holding on to that number 1 ranking throughout the season. So, by the time we finally got to the playoffs, we're like, yeah, if we don't win it, we've kind of fucked up. So they finished, men's volleyball finished the job, and then women's water polo finished the job, and it was really nice to see. Beach volleyball was the one who was next most likely to maybe win a championship, but they had a USC-sized roadblock in the way that's been there for the past 3 years, and they made it 4 in a row, and it was a little disappointing, but they had a great season, and it was also the first season under a new head coach. Even though we graduated a lot of our class, we'll see how things are next season with beach volleyball. Hopefully we'll still be good, because USC is graduating players too, so we'll see how the teams make up next season. Oh, and then we have 2 more teams competing for a national championship this week: women's golf and women's tennis. Women's tennis is in the championship, so it's kind of like the College World Series, and there's 8 teams in the championship tournament for women's tennis, and that's in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and we are the 8th seed. So we're gonna be playing the number 1 seed in our first match, and hopefully fingers crossed it'll go well. And then I'm not sure exactly where women's golf is playing. They are competing in the championship, and there I believe are also 8 teams. So I'll have to read up on that and just a little more, but I know it's happening this week. And if you'll indulge me for a minute, I'd like to do kind of a preview of women's softball with the regionals coming up this weekend. But real quick, I looked it up. Women's golf is just down the road in Carlsbad. Anyway, on to softball. We are the 6th seed in our regional this year. We are playing Grand Canyon in our first game, and the other 2 teams in our regional are San Diego State and Virginia Tech. I was watching the selection show very hilariously. They showed Grand Canyon, and they were less than enthused when they saw that they were the matchup against us in our region, because Grand Canyon was one of the teams that beat us last year and knocked us out of our own region and pretty much ruined the season for us last year. So they're like, oh, great, we get to play a very angry UCLA team that'll, we aren't necessarily playing for revenge, but revenge will be nice. Unlike last year, we were kind of sputtering. We did not look good going into the tournament, and this year I think we look great because we started out the season 11-6. But we finished the season 26-4. Really early on in the season, we were trying to figure out our pitching. That really was the big problem. It's like we had a freshman pitcher who was like on a pitch count, so she couldn't pitch as much, and then we had Taylor Tinsley who just. She played a little bit last year, but because Megan Faremo and Brooke Yanez were like our 2 senior pitchers, she only got a little bit of time. So so now basically we're getting both of them experience. There was a point in the season I can really point to the Stanford series where Stanford is ranked ahead of us, and then we swept them. Taylor Tinsley pitched a lot, and she looked great. She threw 150 pitches in a 9-inning game in game 1, and then just pitched a lot more in the other 2 games. And Caitlin Terry, our second pitcher, came in to back her up and to relieve her. So she didn't totally wear herself out. But then the next series against Arizona, where we won 2 out of 3, we lost the middle game. Taylor Tinsley started off game 1, pitched 4 innings, and then we ended up run ruling them. So Caitlin Terry pitched one after that, or pitched 1 inning after that. But then she pitched all of the Arizona loss, the middle game, and then all of game 3, the third game. And then I was wondering why Taylor Tinsley wasn't pitching anymore. And then Caitlin Terry pitched all of the Arizona State series, which was our last series of the year. And then she started off the first 2 games, she started all 3 games of our Pac-12 tournament play. I was wondering if Taylor Tinsley was hurt. Kelly Inouye Perez said that Taylor Tinsley, who seemed to be our ace at the time until she wasn't pitching as much, I just assumed she was hurt. But Coach I said she was available, so who knows? I think she must have been nursing some sort of injury because Caitlin Terry came in, and then that kid, she's a freshman lefty. We haven't had a good lefty in a while, and she pitched lights out. So other than the Arizona loss, she was great. So and then was pretty great until the Utah game, where after she gave up 4 runs, Taylor Tinsley came in and pitched innings 5 through 7 to close out the game, and also we had a big offensive comeback, our second offensive comeback in consecutive games against Arizona, because in the last game against Arizona we were down 7-0 and came back to win 11-7 because our bats came alive. And that's the other kind of big development, is that our bats have really come alive in the last few games, because against Arizona in the Pac-12 tournament, we were down 4-0 and then came back to win 6-5. And then in the final against Utah, it was more of a pitcher's duel, which we only won 2-1, but it was nice to see both our pitchers looked good. And while Caitlin Terry has been pitching a lot over the last several games, it's nice to see that Taylor Tinsley is back and and looked great. So hopefully, both our pitchers are available and healthy, and along with our hitting, we look good, and And we earned that 6th seed we got, because like at the beginning of the year, I was wondering if we were going to even host a regional, and now we look like a very solid World Series team who can actually do some damage. Because like there's no as good as like Oklahoma has been, and even Texas is the number 1 seed this year, but no one looks so dominant that like Oklahoma's been in the last few years, that really it's a little more wide open, and anyone could win it, and whoever gets hot, hopefully us, will probably be the team that wins the championship this year. I'm actually really excited about the regionals this year, and I'll be there. So hopefully, if you can, please come on out and support the softball team. Oh yeah, and one more thing to look out for: Maya Brady, our Pac-12 Player of the Year again. Oh, and then Kelly I is Coach of the Year. Caitlin Terry's Freshman of the Year. So we got a lot of Pac-12 awards this year, and the last year of the Pac-12. Oh, anyway, one stat to look for is that with runners in scoring position, Maya Brady hits .735. I mean, that's a crazy stat. So like, just get someone on second, and when she's at the bat, 73.5 out of 100 times she's gonna get a hit. I've never felt more comfortable with someone at the plate with someone in a runner in scoring position than seeing Maya Brady up at the plate. So anyway, that's it for now, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you once again to Leo, the library guy. That was very, very good information. And I would just like to say, with softball, I'm going to be watching the playoffs now. But I kind of lost my softball mojo for a minute with how last season ended, and also coinciding with the fact that I don't coach anymore. I mean, Megan's still on the Cal Club softball team, but that's hundreds of miles away. So I'm a little disconnected from it. But I'm looking forward to getting excited for some UCLA softball here to end the year, and hopefully they have some big results. But all right, well, let's get to Bill's favorite part of the show. What's brewing with you?
What's brewing with you? You ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with you?
Mikey, you went to a festival last week. You bought tickets. This week,
yeah, I did.
You're gonna tell us how it went?
I actually went to it. I went to Cool World, as I talked about last week, and this was great. This is a great experience for me because there wasn't one band that I really, really, really wanted to see, but just a bunch of bands who I haven't seen before, and I would, wanted to experience it. And not as hot as the first time I went there, but I did a lot of walking around. I was in the sun, put on the sunscreen. But to be able to see bands that I haven't before, like Simple Minds, Duran Duran, Tones on Tail, Placebo. I've seen Interpol. They were still pretty damn good. And, especially Ministry, who started off as a synth pop band and turned into an industrial band. And Al Jorgensen, who's the lead singer of Ministry, says, I'm never going to do those first 2 albums again. I hate them. And then to come back and actually do those 2 albums specifically was pretty badass.
That is cool.
But yeah, I did try to tweet out as much as I can. Reception was horrible there.
Yeah,
and
Mike, you need to enjoy the music, not tweet. You need to enjoy it. Enjoy the experience, Mike. Live a little. Stop tweeting your life, Mike.
Oh, I did. No.
I know. I'm
you know what, Jake?
Just giving you a hard time, bro.
The people need to know. The people need to know, bro.
That's true.
But it was. I before I stepped into the fray and the non-reception, I tweeted out that if anyone's ready for this festival, it is UCLA fans because they know the grounds. Most likely, they've been drunk on those grounds at least once before. Which I have, and they just generally, they know the layout. But still, it was just, I had such a great time there. I went by myself, but I met so many different people. Like I had so many people in the 24 hours before say, "Hey, are you going to Cruel World? You going to Cruel World?"
Nice.
And so I met up with a handful of them. Not everyone that I got to because one, reception wasn't there, so I would send a text, get a reply 2 hours later. I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm like on the other side of the concert area." So but yeah, no, it was really cool. But
and send me a couple pics to put up on the Substack.
Will do. Jake, what's wrong with you?
Mikey, I just have a couple watch this shows.
Watch this show.
Jake,
He watches too much TV. No one can get through to him. Jake, I really hope you know that Doctor Who is fake. Jake, there's more to life than Sherlock. Just to fight a new girl. Wait, no, there's not.
Watch this show.
So, Mikey, I think last week I mentioned I was listening to some BBC adaptions of Tennessee Williams plays on Audible, right? I'm pretty sure I talked about that last week. I listened to another one this week, and it's called Spring Storm. It's a 3-act play. I thought this one was terrific. It was written in 1937, and as a weird coincidence, this thing actually didn't premiere until 1995, because this is like one that was lost in his papers and found after he kind of posthumously. But this thing premiered in Berkeley, California, believe it or not.
Go Bears!
Nice. In 1995. So actually right when I got to UCLA. But it's a bonkers play, and these reproductions, or these dramatizations, I should say, on Audible are just it's a super cool. But this one's kind of it's a giant love parallelogram, and a bunch of commentary on what women's what their plight was in 1937, and the kind of the implications of if they're trying to get married, or having sex out of wedlock, or what they're believing in, and the motivations of all these young teenagers. It was just it's I think this is a Tennessee Williams on a big time hot streak burner or whatever, but it was good. It was a very enjoyable play to read. Secondly, I just started a show on Netflix that just premiered, and have you heard of Bodkin yet, Mikey?
Not at all. So
it's kind of like, if you just look at what the raw stats are, you're going to be like, this is an Only Murderers in the Building, which is on Hulu, knockoff. That's a Martin Short, Steve Martin show that's on there about a podcast and a murder.
Which, by the way, real quick, they just announced season 4, August 27th.
That's right. And I like that show. Don't get me wrong. I like that show quite a bit. There's a little bit about that show that is very, very, very kind of forced, but it's fun. It's a very fun show. Bodkin has kind of the same plot bones, in that there is a podcaster and he's in Ireland, and there's some murders that occur, but beyond that, it's just a much different show, much different atmosphere, but it's also a kind of a dark comedy, and it is just, I've watched 2 episodes of it so far, and it's a whole heck of a lot of fun, and I would recommend that highly, even though I haven't got through the whole thing yet. So, and also incidentally, it is produced by none other than Barack and Michelle Obama. So that's kind of a weird stat. But yeah, they're doing a weird podcast show about a reporter and a podcaster in Ireland. So go figure. That's my What's Brewing. I think Megan is going to come home this weekend. It's very cool. Malcolm is going to have his birthday this weekend, which is cool, except for the fact that I'll be out of town when both of these things kind of happen. We're going to do Malcolm's birthday on Monday because that's his actual birthday. But I am going to Nashville, Tennessee in a day and a half or so for Grizzlies football, and this may be a giant catastrophe because the field we're playing on is a wreck. We had to, the other team had to back out on paying for buses, so we had to pay for buses. But hopefully we have a good time. But the Grizzlies need to get off the schneid and win a game, and hopefully we're going to do that against the Roanoke Rampage on Saturday. So that's what's going on with me, Mikey, and thank you very much. So
it looks like you guys are paying sheriff money.
Jeez, man. Yeah, no kidding, man. These scallywags from the East Coast. It's tough. Sometimes this league, we can support ourselves, and sometimes we can't. And it's kind of we're doing it all for charity, and sometimes there's money in there, sometimes there's not. But anyways, thank you very much, Mike. We will be back next week with something. I'm sure something's going to happen. And we're going to have, we're going to be talking to Wayne Cook in a couple weeks here. I just talked to him today to try to get that scheduled. So hopefully we do it on an off week for the Bible. Gee whiz, those guys. It's overusing. Gee whiz. But anyway, Mikey, I guess until next time, have a good weekend. And what do we say?
Go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin Show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's gotta be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, Rob, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.